Craig Ripley here once again. Welcome to Living Off the Slab. So this is video number 3 in our series on motorcycle touring clothing. And remember, again, I'm trying to add some things in to talk to the new touring riders out there. In this video, we're going to talk again about base layers. But this time, we're not going to talk about base layers for the lower body. We're going to talk about those for the upper body. Now, you're probably asking yourself, why would you separate the upper body and the lower body when you're talking about base layers? I mean, aren't they the same fabrics? Aren't they really the same manufacturers that you're going to talk about? And yes, all of that is true. They are the same fabrics. We're going to talk about basically the same manufacturers. However, there are slightly different reasons why you would wear a base layer on your lower body versus your upper body. When we were talking about base layers for the lower body, we were primarily concerned with getting water, getting sweat away from your skin, right? Because we don't want to cause that irritation that lead to conditions like monkey butt, right? And that's true for your feet, and that's true, again, for your buttocks and your growing area. In the upper body, again, you want to keep away the irritation of having something constantly wet up against your skin. On the other hand, you also want to facilitate evaporation because you want to keep your core temperature within normal ranges. You don't want it to get up too high, right? Or you don't want it to get too cold. So you want to keep your core temperature regulated. Now, you guys probably already know this, but I'll touch on it anyway, and that is that your body's primary mode of cooling itself is through evaporation. That is evaporation of sweat on the surface of your skin. So what happens is that when the sweat is on your skin and it evaporates, heat is required, some form of energy is required for that process to happen. And the energy comes from heat that is given up from the surface of your skin, thus helping to cool your body. So how do these garments help to regulate your temperature? Well, essentially it works like this, right? They grab the water, move it to the surface of the fabric, and help to facilitate evaporation, right? However, that water, that evaporation can't be too far away from the skin. So that's why these fabrics are pretty thin, right? The water still comes out, right? It's close to the skin, so that way when heat is given off, then it still helps to cool your body. All right, so what happens if the water sits on the skin and it doesn't evaporate? Right? Well, remember we had the example of the cotton underwear before that would hold 27 times its weight in water. Well, the same thing is if you have a cotton shirt or some kind of fabric that holds a lot of water. At some point, it becomes saturated, and then there's no place for any additional sweat to go, right? There's no place for it to evaporate. So the evaporation process really slows down and your temperature ends up rising quickly. On the other hand, if it's cold outside and you've got some kind of fabric that's going to hold a lot of water, and then you've got a jacket on top of that and maybe even a mid layer in there to keep you warm, right? And you're sweating underneath even though it's cold outside. Now what happens if you take all those layers off, like you go into a restaurant or something like that, now you've got that wet clothing on you. Well, water transfers heat about 25 times faster than air does. Right? That's why you can stand outside without a shirt when it's 40 degrees and stay out there for quite a long time. But if you're in 40-degree water, you only got a few minutes before you lose all of your body heat and go into hypothermia. The end result of all of that is what we want from these fabrics is for them to keep us dry, but at the same time help facilitate evaporation of sweat. Again, and if they're good, that's what they do. So again, talking to the new riders or the new touring riders out there, just to let you know my progression of where I came from. I started off, like most people, with cotton shirts and cotton pants and, cotton socks, right? Just like we talked about in the last video. And it took me a while to finally learn that I needed to go to some kind of synthetic fabric that was going to help facilitate that evaporation that we were just talking about. So moving off of cotton, as I did with the underwear, I went to something from Under Armour, right? And that's what I said in that video that I did 3 years ago. Right? It just doesn't have to be Under Armour. It just happened to be what I used because it is out there, it's readily available, and it's relatively good price. It's a moderately priced product, and it does a pretty good job. Other things I've tried are shirts like this Heat Out shirt from Cycle Gear. And you know, it actually does a pretty good job. It's a very thin fabric, and it's a compression fit, so when you put it on, it immediately makes you feel cool. I don't think that it actually is doing anything. It's just because of the tight fit and the thin layer of fabric, you can really feel every breeze and so forth coming through the shirt. And it does help to facilitate sweat to move out to the outside and to get evaporated. So where am I now? What am I going to take to Alaska with me? Well, like the underwear, I'm taking my LD Comforts with me, right? I'm going to take 2 of the long sleeves and 2 of the short sleeves with me. All right, so that'll be 4 garments all together, and that'll constitute my riding gear. Let me address the elephant in the room, which is, of course, the cost of some of these clothing, right? I had mentioned in my last video that the LD Comfort shorts go for $45 and $50, right? And the shirts, well, they're not inexpensive either. The full long sleeve shirt, I'm going to have 2 of those that zip up collars, right? Those are $84. And the short sleeve shirts are $64. So they're not inexpensive. Again, they're specialty items designed to do a specific purpose. Just like your jackets, just like your helmets, just like all of the other gear that you ride with. So that's the way that I take a look at this, right? I'm using this gear for specific purposes, right? It's not something I'm going to use day to day, again, primarily because of the cost. Although I'll tell you, that long sleeve LD Comfort shirt is really comfortable. I've actually been wearing it to work quite a bit because it's so comfortable. But anyway, it's really up to you. If you feel that that's too much to spend, there's tons of things out there on the market that you can look at. Just do your research and find something that's going to fit your price range and fit your needs. But for me, again, it's worth it to get the best. Since I'm going on this trip in July, my primary concern is going to be to keep myself cool. Right? And I think it's good that we touch on that just a little bit because we have talked about using these garments and so forth to help keep you cool. Right? And in order to do that, you need to do 2 things. One, make sure you stay hydrated, right? You want to keep water in your body. You want to keep sweating, right? That's how your body is going to cool itself. All right? Number 2, ventilation. You need a jacket that has really good ventilation in it, right? Something that's going to let the air flow through and something that is going to then facilitate the evaporative process. However, since I just mentioned that you want a jacket with good ventilation, some of you are probably saying, well, I have a full mesh jacket, the air just runs right through. That's not necessarily a good thing, right? Because if you have too much air going through, then your sweat really doesn't get a chance to evaporate and absorb the heat from your skin. It's just out there and it's gone so quickly. It gets blown right off by all the wind blasting it that you really don't get any good heat transfer from your skin and from your body, right? So you actually can end up raising your temperature by having so much wind running across your body. So again, you want a jacket that does have some kind of ventilation to it, but not so much that you're just going to get blasted by the wind, right? Not a full mesh. Sorry. All right, guys, once again, that's it. Trying to keep these things short and sweet. Please remember to buy from Twisted Throttle through my website. Again, you get a little discount, 10% I believe, plus it helps keep these videos coming. Also, we are supporting homes for our troops for this Alaska trip, so please consider a donation at www.livingofftheslab.com. Right on the homepage, there's a donate button right up near the top. So please do so, going for a great cause. Thanks. See you next time.